Hello, my name is Benita James Harris, and I am the founder and teacher with Brown Sugar Crafters of Lexington, Kentucky. And today I have with me Miss Mary and Yvonne. They are two of members of the group. We have a total of 7 members, and they couldn't make it today. And we have Patricia Means. She actually lives in Atlanta. And we have Beverly Claiborne and my sister Shirley James, Jamie. What's James?
Wilkerson.
Wilkerson. And am I forgetting? Oh, Miss Beverly has a granddaughter also that comes with us, and we meet once a month, and we make beautiful things.
All right. Now, what are you going to be doing today?
Today we're going to do a little demonstration. When I teach young people, like ages 9 up, some of them have never touched or seen a sewing machine, but they're interested in wanting to learn. So I always teach them, the basics about the sewing machine, the do's and don'ts, and I teach them just a basic straight stitch. I give them fabric and I say, sew this together and we're going to make something. So today we're going to make a shoe. So you see this fabric here, it doesn't look like a shoe, but it's going to turn into a shoe. So you ladies can start stitching. So what they're doing is just a straight stitch, sewing 3 pieces of fabric together. Too slow for you, Yvonne?
I'm getting used to it. You have a button where you can speed it up?
Yes, I do.
Okay, now Bonnie, now I want this to be more,
So we'll just cut it.
this is gonna be more the front of the shoe.
Okay. I was looking for my cutter. So you just want half of this?
Yeah, yeah.
We'll just cut it.
So, and then on this, I wanna make sure it kinda start hitting there. Come back.
Come back this way.
Yeah. So I want all these little red, they look like tomatoes.
Or you're gonna have a shoe with tomatoes.
All right.
There you
I'm
go.
gonna do some cutting on mine.
So
Okay, I'm gonna cut some of this off. So
I wanted to always teach, and I don't know if you've heard of the Lyric Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they remodeled and reopened that, just by chance, I walked in and I was introduced to the lady who ran it, and she said, "Do you sew?" And I said, "Yeah, a little bit." She said, "Do you know how to make dresses? We're gonna do a project out of pillowcases." And just being in the right place at the right time, and thanking God for the introduction from one of my church members, Miss Meriwether. I was the facilitator for that for the whole summer.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was pretty interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And
Go ahead.
the kids made pillowcase dresses, and then they got sent to Africa.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah. They also got to model some of the things that they made.
Uh-huh.
It was pretty cool. Our group meets once a month, and sometimes twice. If somebody can't make it, I'll do an extra class for them.
Okay.
And we just come in and sew, and we meet about 6:30.
yeah.
Sometimes we don't leave here at 10 p.m. But we get it done.
Okay. I think that's how I want it to look.
You mentioned, you've been working with young people. That's one of the things, we were trying to do is get young people interested in, the tradition of quilting. Have you found that difficult or?
Yeah, I'll get that, Miss Mom.
Okay.
I find that if they're interested, like I said, with this, you have to give them something simple, but then make something like wow out of it, and that usually holds their attention. I find that they do a lot, and then they want to make something else.
Yeah.
Once they've done that, they want to make something else. My best friend Pat, she came in and she hadn't sewn for a long time. We used to have it in school on that. And she came in and one day she made 2 wall hangings, a little drawstring bag, and a pot holder. She just didn't want to quit.
Yeah. I think when they see that they can do this and they see it's completed,
Yeah.
Right,
they will
the
encourage
complete-
them to
yeah.
go, I want to do more.
Yeah. So once they sew their 3 pieces together, then I'll say, you like your shoe? And they'll say, it's not a shoe. And then I'll say, well, let's put this on there and see what we get.
I'll give you the other one.
I got one for you.
I got 2 so far.
You can do it with those.
Okay.
And so laying this shoe, let's put it up here, Miss Mary. Shoe pattern. So this is Miss Mary's shoe, and we'll have to press it out, but you can move it around and get different patterns. And then this will be framed. And then Miss Yvonne's shoe. This is just with 3 pieces of fabric. So you can do this,
I just said it.
or you can turn it and do it that way. And then I'll give them a frame, and that'll be a piece of art. So here's 2. Yeah, you can turn it at an angle. Here's 2 that I did. That's got the frame already.
Yeah, that's it.
And then this one.
That's neat.
Yep. And it can also be cut out. This is a different shoe. And then applique onto just a piece of background
I'm sorry.
fabric.
Okay.
I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
It's something that you wouldn't think would turn out to be something like that. And that's what gets young people interested. Because then they'll say, oh, can you do a teddy bear? Or can you do a balloon or something like that?
Okay.
But yeah,
I like
any
that.
way you put it, it's pretty.
Oh, either way it goes, I like it.
As my daughter just says, it means only God. And I haven't decided what particular quilt I'm going to put it in. Another one of my favorites. I have lots of UFOs, unfinished objects, okay. This one I started in a class, in a quilting convention about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's applique and it's painting also. And these little gold stripes here represents the knowledge that I have gained over a period of years throughout my life, that's come into my head. And then what you see coming out from the mouth area is me trying to pass that knowledge on. And here again, I love that Giame symbol that means only God is covering me.
Do that one, Miss Mary, the lady.
Oh yeah, this
Oh,
is
was
fine. Yeah.
Oh, this one. Oh. This is my lady I did. I went to, was it Kansas City, to the first African American quilt conference in Kansas City. I took the class with Aisha Lumumba. She's got a book out called Scrappy Lady. So this is my Scrappy Lady. And of course my hair is a lot shorter, but this is me just gliding along in life. And because I like bright colors. So that's, try to think of it. What else? Well, how do we do that? We made a block. We used pieces of material and we pieced it together until we got this
Crazy block.
Yeah, crazy block. Got this crazy block. And she, sort of like what we did with the shoe, we laid the lady on it to cut it out. And then I appliqued her on, and then I did whatever else, like embellished her, put some little earrings in her, on her, and this is a little headband on her. So that's mine, and try to think what else.
The mat there.
Oh yeah, this is a mat we did with Bonita. What do we call that?
That's raw edge weaving.
We call
It's jelly roll strips that's been weaved.
And I got an embroidery machine, and I finally figured out how to use it because Bonita showed me how to use it. And I got a picture of a embroidered lady with the turban on her head. So if you can see it, I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yeah. And she showed the front.
Oh yeah, to the front. I think what else? And
What's this one?
this one, then I'm okay. Oh yeah, this one. This is a quilt that me, my mother, and this other lady, Beverly. She's in Texas now.
Yeah. And we were the
What
Quilt and Soul Sisters of Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and this was made with
Half square triangles.
and we think we end up having to do like 20-something blocks each.
Yeah.
And then Beverly is the one that put them together.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Yeah. So
Nice.
try to take that. And I'll just show one.
You know what I like about quilting is that, like Yvonne said, everybody has their own way of doing things.
Yes.
You got your traditional quilters, you got your art
Yes.
quilters, you know.
Yes.
I'm definitely not a traditional quilter.
Which you
I tried, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't my style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say that y'all do some really unique
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
And this was from a class that I did with down in Kansas, Celeste Butler. She's good about doing thread painting. And what she taught us to do, we had a picture of a lady and we painted it. We painted it first and then we filled it in with thread. And that was neat for me because she kept telling me, because I'm so used to, stitching along. And she was like, come on, Yvonne, you're slowing up over there. And I had to keep, it was what they call like free motion quilt. I like free motion quilting. It's like where you don't really follow a line, you just sort of do what you want. And she's got some bracelets on her and some beads on her for her necklace. So that's.
And the one that I showed you that had the red headband that I talked about, the knowledge, it will have thread painting on it when I finish it.
Okay. What else?
I'll
If
show.
I need to return it to you.
Oh, I gotta show this. This is so cute. Miss Mary, that's your
Okay.
baby.
Yeah, this is my baby doll. I haven't given her a name yet, but I went to the Atlanta Quilt Festival in Atlanta in 2022 and made her there. And it's like quilting and sewing is your own expression. And when I got through with her some kind of way, she was pigeon-toed. I said, well, that's good because we have some pigeon-toed people in our family. So that's my pigeon-toed baby.
For me, I'm more of an art quilter. I like doing different things.
Yes.
One of my first, I guess, inspirations as to being an art quilter is that piece there on the wall. That's thread painting. And then this right here, that's the same as the thread painting, but that's done with fabric. And I think it's like 15 different pieces of fabric in that. And that came from a coloring book page. The pattern is actually a coloring book page. Mine are pretty small.
Okay. Yes.
This, let's see.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
This is
You want to lay for it?
one of my queens, and she's appliqued, and her name is Soulful Grace. And it also came from an inspiration from Aisha's book that I got for Christmas. And I love doing the queens, and I love my African fabric. So she's just appliqued down, and I've sewed several of these. It's hard to get rid of them. It really is. It's hard to get rid of them. And then I have this one. This is a pattern. I got a string there. I call it Journey because they're marching towards something better. It's a pattern that I got off of eQuilter.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love applique. And I love using the different fabrics, to accent the dress wear.
Beautiful.
This one is my sister quilt, my sister girl quilt. And this is a pattern by Miss Janice
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yeah, Joyce. Yeah.
out of Atlanta, and I went to a quilt show down there several years ago, but I saw this and I ordered it from her not long ago. And so this quilt represents my sister Shirley and my sister. I call her my sister. She's really my sister-in-law, but she's more than a sister-in-law. She's my sister, Lillian, and that's me. So that's my sister girl quilt, and it was done to represent the love we have for each other. And since I love my sister so much, I decided she need her own quilt. So this is Queen Lillian.
Oh.
And she is dimensional, you know, she's puffy here. The hat, I don't know how I managed to do that, but I did. I just took fabric and started twisting, and that's what I came up with. Again, this is made from the pattern that in Aisha's book.
That's cute.
And this, of course, is called Mr. President. This is President Barack Obama, of course. And when he became president, everybody was making Obama quilts. And I said, well, I need a Obama wall hanging. So I used a scan and cut. It cuts fabric or paper to cut this out. This also was a coloring book page. And it's fused and applique down. Couple more. This is called Best Friend, and it's my doggies. Actually, it's a Tabby. She passed away several years ago, and this one is China when she was little, and it represents them looking into the sunset. And my most favorite and precious one is Miss Tubman. And this is raw edge applique with thread art. The fabric is dyed with tea. And she's also from a coloring book. It's got a little bit of paint on, not paint, but colored pencil on her lips and her eyes. And I call her the thinker, the eyes of a slave. If only her eyes could tell the story. And she is probably one of my most prized possessions. Yeah, I could never. Somebody wanted to buy it, but I couldn't sell it. I would never sell her. And doing this quilt, I don't know, I can see it in her face, the stress, because that's where I was. When I did this quilt, I was very stressed, and me and God had a long talk. But I don't know, sometimes I see the stress that I had in her face. But she's my thinker. And this one.
Yeah, that's a quilt.
So I had made a quilt for my sisters and, you know, the dogs. And after I did my sister quilt, I had a dream of my mom. And she and the dream said, you made everybody a quilt, make me a quilt. What about my quilt? So this is called a quilt for mom. And it represents my mom and her two sisters, Emma and my Aunt May. All three are passed on. So this quilt represents them piecing a quilt.
This is a quilt I made. I guess it's my first real memory quilt. It was the pictures. If I start crying, I'm sorry. My sister had died, and I wanted to make a quilt for her to remember her. So I got a picture of her. I think she's in here somewhere. But this is the last shirt she wore. This is a piece of shirt that she wore that I put in here. And her favorite color was blue.
There's a picture of her at the top, the four, turn it up this way. Yeah. There's a picture of the four of them.
Yeah.
And then there she is, a picture of her alone.
And I got pieces of, I think I got a piece of material of here, my Aunt Jessie, in here somewhere.
Yeah. And then this piece right here
That's Aunt
came
Jessie.
from one of Aunt Jessie's pillowcases or her dress.
And I got pictures of my sisters and the family, and I sort of wanted to try to keep it blue to commemorate her. And it was a quilt for my mother. This is the front of it, and then this is the back.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't want to cut the blue. I didn't want to cut it, and I got made copies of the obituaries and pictures of my auntie, which is my Aunt Jessie here. I got a picture of my uncle and my sister, and I got some obituaries of I think it's one of my uncles. That's a picture of my uncle that died, my Aunt Jessie, her obituary. And I just put them on it because I didn't want to cut this blue material. And once I did that, I quilted it around it, and I put these little Yame in, which means except God is omnipotent, except God. And I put it in there, and I had this one, which means Sankofa, look back and reach back, because I was like, I believe in God, and I believe in going back and looking at our past to move on through the future. Okay, my name is Yvonne Bing. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I like coming up here to Bonita's for our class because it keeps me inspired to keep doing my quilting, and she always keeps me fresh. Because I know I get home, it's like, I don't want to sew no more. Then Benita's like, well, we're going to do this. I was like, okay, let me get my material out and get started.
And how long have you been quilting?
I started like in 2015, 16. I've always wanted to quilt because I used to save clothes for my daughters. Like, oh, I'm going to put it in the quilt, but I never had a quilting thing until I went out and bought a machine in 2015, and I went to a class, and I didn't see anybody that looked like me in this class. Mm-hmm. And I guess when I got started, I was like, I know there's got to be some people out there that look like me. So I got on Facebook, and that's where I met Bonita at. And it was like, it was nice. It was nice. I like with quilting, you can do whatever you want to express yourself. You have people like to do the traditional quilting. You have people like to do the other kind. I feel like quilting is whatever you want to do, and it's whatever your quilt. It's yours. Mm-hmm. So that's what I like about it.
All right, awesome.
I'm Mary Malone, and I like coming up here to Bonita. As my daughter says, she keeps me inspired. I started sewing at a young age, and at times I get in, I guess you call it a slump. Mm-hmm. And coming up here to Bonita gets me re-motivated, to go home and go in my sewing studio and do something. Plus, I learned new techniques, new ideas about sewing.
All right, great.
Okay, so I work at the GYN Oncology Clinic at the University of Kentucky, and our ovarian screening program has quilts that have been donated to our clinic. And those quilts really is what the inspiration was for me to start making quilts. And I saw this picture, and I printed it off, and I took it and showed somebody. And I said, I'm going to make this. And she said, you can't make that. You're not good enough. And I'm like, what? And she said, you're not good enough to do that. You don't have the talent. And so I come home, and this was my first raw edge applique. And I took it back and showed it to her and told her I'm not good enough maybe for you, but this is good enough for me. I did better. And that's the back of it.
Beautiful.
I call her my princess warrior. All that was cut out by hand.
And what do you tell your students?
I tell my students when they first, just because of that, because words can really damage people just by what you say. So I tell my students, I said, there's 2 words you cannot say in my class, and that's I can't. Because if you say I can't do it, you've already failed. So that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
We've also did a session on hand quilting, and this is Kawandi sewn block, and it's made by African people who have settled in India, which I did not know that until I started doing the research. And it's very interesting what's out there, and it's all hand stitched, turned under blocks, you know, so there's no raw edges on it. And you just sew across as you lay your blocks down, and then come down, and it's done, you know, kind of like in a square type sewing, but there's no particular pattern. You just put your fabric down where it'll fit, and that's the back of it.
Awesome. So where did you get all this knowledge and learn how to quilt like that?
My grandmother, I'm from a little country place called Utteringtown, Kentucky. It's straight out Winchester Road. It's about 8 or 9 miles out. And back in the day, you know, the church ladies, they would meet in the lodge and do things. And I would go with my grandmother and my auntie. And they had this big, I guess, a loom or something that they would stretch the quilt over, and they would do hand stitching.
Like a quilting rack.
Like a quilting rack, yes. And I never was able to do it. I was told to sit in the corner, be seen and not heard. So that's what I did. But while I was sitting, I was watching. And I never really got into sewing until probably my teenage years. But YouTube has really been my teacher. And I tried to find as many things that interest me, and you know, like I said, I like African fabrics, so I mostly go to those sites that have African themed quilts. But I like any type of art quilts.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you? How did you get started and inspired you?
I guess what really inspired me is, like I said, I've always wanted to quilt, but I never brought it to fruition until, I guess, when my sister died. You know, it was like it was up here in the head. You know, I was like, oh, I'm gonna put my daughter's first little dress up, because I'm gonna put it in a quilt one day. I'm gonna take my son's little T-shirt that he threw up on, put it in a quilt one day. And like I said, 2016, and it was after my sister died, I wanted to do something to remember her by. And of course, I searched on YouTube, and it was after I took my sewing class. I wanted to do something that would incorporate any type of material. I had my great auntie's, her dress, and my sister's blouse. And I sort of like for my quilts to sort of tell my story, you know, and that's why I like putting pictures in mine, because it's like, I put pictures when we were younger, so that's the first one. And as we got into teenager, that may be my second one. Maybe the fourth one to be after I had my kids, when we were older. I like putting those in there. And then I also like to try to remember my uncles and aunties by incorporating them. Maybe they'll have their obituary or a picture of them in there. I also found when I was quilting that I could type in their names in the quilt, and the kids would have to look for it. It was like, well, who is this? That's your Uncle Lerman. That was Grandpa's brother. Or, well, who is this? Aunt Jessie. That was my auntie. You know, that way they can sort of ask questions.
Yeah. That's neat.
Yeah.
That's neat.
My auntie taught me to sew when I was 4 years old. She had worked on what was called the WPA back in the late 30s and early 40s. Was a wartime project, and she sewed there. But anyway, she taught me to sew. Didn't have a sewing machine. I learned to sew by hand. She taught me how to use newspaper to cut out patterns, and I used to cut out patterns for my dolls. During my teen years, I used to cut out blouse patterns for myself, and because I lost that skill over the years because I didn't keep it up. But anyway, I used to make doll clothes all the time. If I got a new dress, the doll would get a new dress made. Okay, and then my auntie bought me a little sewing machine, so I started sewing on that. And then I kind of stopped. I got married, had children, and then I started sewing again. Did some quilting. I have no idea where those quilt pieces are that I started way back then. And I made all my clothes, all my children's clothes, and then I went back to school in the 70s and stopped sewing. Gave away all my fabric. I had tons of fabric. And then Yvonne started quilting in 2015, and watching her do that, I had flashbacks. Oh, yeah, I remember the joy I got from that. So I got back into it.
Awesome.
Yeah, she sort of inspired me. I just didn't realize it, but she inspired me. We used to make them bloomer drawers. Bloomer drawers. Like, oh, Lord. We got a word in. I'm sorry.
My biggest thing with quilting is, one, it's quiet. It's me just in my thoughts. And sometimes when my daughter was little and I was in my quilt room, and she knows that when that door is closed, Mama's thinking. And she came and she knocked on the door real soft and she said, "Mommy, are we eating today?" So I had gotten so, and I still do it.
Yes.
I had gotten so into what I was doing that I mean, when I go in my quilt room, I'm in a total different world. And I use it for therapy. It's a good therapy. You know, if I'm stressed out about something or worried about something, I just go to my machine and turn it on, and when I come out, I'm good.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, fabric talks to us.
It does.
You know, it does. You may have an idea what you want to do, but it's like the fabric says, no, no, we don't want to do that. Let's try this. And it's like, when I tell people that, I said, the fabric's talking to me. What? I said, you don't understand. I said, it's, in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this red and black. Then when you get down there, you're like, fabric's like, no, we don't want this. We want something else. And it's like, when we see fabric, it makes us happy.
Speaking of fabric, I won't say who, but there are two people in this room. Two people in this room have gotten me in trouble. They have taught me how to spend money on fabric. We take fabric trips.
Yes.
It's inventory.
Yes.
Inventory.
It's like you go in, you feel the fabric. Oh, I don't feel right. Oh, this one. Oh, that makes me happy. Oh, I'm going to get that. I like that color.
And the colors is, some days I go in my studio, it's certain colors that just draws me to them. And then another day I'll go in and no, this is not the color of the day, you know. And I think Bonnie said, my daughter, it's quilting to me is our expression, and I don't like using patterns to quilt. And we were in a class. This was an art class that we took, and the gentleman Hank Herron said, "In art, there are no mistakes," and I truly believe that if it doesn't go the way that you had planned it, it's still okay. And nobody will notice it unless you point it out.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's true. That's true. That's good. That's good.
So this is one of my quilts that's hanging up in the GYN Oncology Clinic at UK. And it's an interesting story behind this quilt. this lady here donated a bunch of fabric to me. And I had just came back to work after the death of my auntie, Emma James. She raised me. It was my mom's sister. Very devastating. She was our matriarch. And this young lady here, she was getting rid of some of her fabric, so she gave me 7 boxes of fabric.
Wow.
And so I knew I couldn't use all that fabric. So what I did is I took and laid out a bunch of fabric, had all the staff pick out 3 to 4 pieces of fabric that they lacked. And this is the pattern that they chose for me to make. So that's quilt. I wanted to give a special name, and when I looked up her name, it said it was like being happy, and that made me happy. So that's the name of the quilt.
Happy.
It's happy. So that's the story behind that.